I love that Elizabeth talked about dopamine and Charles talked about scale and ridiculousness. So I'm glad we live in a world with all of those. I don't know how many of you know what this is. I'll bet not many. So if you know, raise your hand. I'm just curious. There are a few hands. Okay, this is actually a cryptocurrency. You've probably heard about Bitcoin. You've probably heard about Ethereum. This is a CryptoKitty. So you may not know about CryptoKitties because they just launched in November of 2017, so not that long ago. But like Bitcoin and Ethereum, this digital cat represents a piece of value that is bought, sold, traded. There's many different kinds of cats, and they're bought and sold and traded on an exchange. 3 million transactions since November, $30 to $50 million of value of these cats. This cat was launched about 3 weeks ago. It has a name, Celestial Cyber Dimension. This cat was launched and sold for $140,000 that was donated to a charity. We're in a radically new world of digital communities, digital currencies, and with currencies, obviously, support of charitable causes. As was mentioned, I started my career as a semiconductor chip designer. I became a venture capitalist in 1991. I've been funding companies for 27 years, about 100 of them. 20 of them managed to become public companies. After the internet bubble popped, I did take a couple years off. I became a sponsored athlete in kiteboarding, kind of a random career, but that led to this. So that led to the intersection over a couple of decades of extreme athletes and technologists. We're now a community of athletes, conservationists, technologists, artists, and innovators, a registered 501c3 that apply our collective knowledge, energy, capital, social capital to causes that we support, many of them around ocean conservation because we're out there riding on the ocean a lot, and also around the promotion of technology for social change. We number in the thousands. We operate kind of gatherings in places as far away as Australia, Norway, different locations around the world. This particular one is focused on blockchain. About 4 years ago, well before, I guess, the burst of excitement about cryptocurrencies last year, we started a blockchain summit for social good. The blockchain you can think of as sort of like what TCP/IP is for internet and email. It's a transport layer, so in internet, you can basically wrap words in an email, drop them into a transport stream, they come out somewhere else, and a system kind of knows who sent it, where it went, keeps track of it. Digital currencies operate the same way. The blockchain is like that transport system, like the TCP/IP for internet, but for little pieces of value. So you can put a Bitcoin in there, you can put other cryptocurrencies. If you were to start an Uber today, you could wrap a car around with a digital identifier, and instead of building a whole proprietary system, you could basically transact the car for 5 minutes across a blockchain. So it's basically a way to enable community interaction, marketplaces of assets, instead of just information. It was the blockchain summit that we put together was modeled after this. So some of you have probably heard about the Homebrew Computer Club. When I was in college, I was literally in a cornfield in Illinois, University of Illinois. I started as an electrical engineer, ended up learning how to design semiconductor chips, and faced with a bunch of choices, including admission to Harvard for grad school and seemingly big job offers from IBM, Hewlett-Packard, and Motorola. I packed up my little Dodge Colt and I drove for 4 days to get to California to join a startup because I wanted to find other people of like mind to share ideas with. That community was still running at that time, and people that would come to share ideas to get feedback included folks like Bill Gates and Paul Allen and Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, some of the guys that started Sun Microsystems, Alan Shugart that started Seagate. It was the root of community and collaboration around a new wave of technology. Anytime there's a new wave of technology, it's hard to learn by reading because the information is moving so fast you can't document it quick enough. So you basically have to interact person to person. Thus my journey into Bitcoin. So predating Bitcoin around 2000, I don't know if any of you live in virtual worlds and you've Second Life. If you remember Second Life, it was kind of this random virtual world. The person that started Second Life was another person that used to kiteboard with me, Philip Rosedale. When Second Life got started, there were a bunch of people milling about in this virtual world with an unstructured environment with nothing to do, and I suggested that we start a currency. So inside Second Life, I have the avatar and have had that since 2001 of Alan Greenspan Gollum, and helped catalyze what became the Linden dollar, and an economy developed over the next few years. And when Bitcoin came out around 2008, 2009, people were telling me, oh, there's this new currency, there's this new currency. So I downloaded the client and I started mining. And a year into it, and I do a lot of my like hacking stuff on holiday weekends. Thanksgiving weekend of 2010, I was looking for a community. I couldn't get into my Dodge Colt and drive anywhere because this is the first wave of technology that isn't really Silicon Valley centric. It's really all over the world. So I took to Twitter looking for other people I could learn from, and sure enough, I started to develop kind of a family of connections around the world. Together with these folks in a totally undocumented world. This is my dining room. So we started to learn how to mine together and improve, from computers to graphics cards to programming FPGAs. My electricity bill went nuts, and that led to some of the folks I was mining with forming a company. That stuff now looks like this stuff. Let's see, if I click, will it play? So this is a Bitcoin mining data center. This is one of 3 buildings in Iceland. This particular building burns about 10 million watts. This is regular pictures of it. But we have data centers now in Iceland, Norway, Republic of Georgia. We had one in Finland. We have some in Canada, Azerbaijan, Republic of Georgia, I think I mentioned. We're connecting to a nuclear power plant pretty soon. We've mined around 1 million Bitcoins, street value of $8 or $9 billion in a few years. I'm also chairman of Hut 8 Mining, which is the largest publicly listed cryptocurrency mining operation in North America. It's traded on the Toronto Exchange, a backer of CryptoKitties, and I've helped launch 2 other currencies. One is AirSwap, which is a peer-to-peer marketplace for the exchange of digital assets of any kind, and Power Ledger, which is a peer-to-peer exchange mechanism for chunks of electricity. We're in a world that's exploding with various communities of interest that are interested in specific areas and therefore willing to trade currency. If you take a historic perspective, while it seems crazy that in a couple of years there are thousands of digital currencies, in my opinion, that's actually the norm. If you think about human history, we've always had multiple currencies. I think our frame of reference in this generation is a little bit off because we've had the dollar standard for actually a pretty short time. After Bretton Woods in 1944, there was a gold standard for about 28 years, and then the petrodollar for about 40. I don't know what happens to our currency with the load of debt we have on it, but there are communities of interest forming around topics, as I mentioned. If you picture the formation of the U.S., the original colonies of the United States, a bunch of folks getting off a boat, going to the forest and drawing lines to define states, Massachusetts, New York, Virginia, whatever, every single one of them did an ICO. They created their own currency around a geographically defined community of interest. Now all of us are basically molecules on an extended fabric that can abstract off the page and meet other people online that you share values with and therefore are willing to exchange. So this book is actually kind of interesting. It's a chronicle by Neil Ferguson about value exchange during civilized humanity, all the way from shells and pebbles and feathers to credit default swaps. And if you look at the construct of the way currencies have operated, I think what's happening now is we're actually going back to what humanity was for 5.9 million years of the 6 million. Which brings us back to the CryptoKitty. Okay. So this is just one of those many currencies. CryptoKitties has been kind enough to create a new digital cat, a unique digital cat for us that we're also going to auction off for our 501c3 sometime later this year. But as I used to do in communities like the Homebrew Computer Club to get feedback on ideas, I just want to lay something out for you guys, and if you have interest in participating or helping or providing advice. So imagine a world where instead of a cat, and in CryptoKitties, you basically make a cat. You open a wallet. You stick it out in a marketplace. You can sell it. You can breed your cat with other cats and create offspring and sell those too. I don't know what you need. But imagine a world where instead of a cat, you have endangered species. You have rhinos. You have orangutans. You have gorillas. You have every kind of species that may not be here for your children. And you can create one of those. We create a new cryptocurrency, launch that, and then people can basically use that currency to bid. Oh, and use the currency to fund field teams to go and get DNA samples of small rollouts of rhinos, of elephants on different preserves. You create your animal and you use your currency to bid to match your digital animal, your virtual animal, with a DNA sample of the real one. So you create the same kinds of digital engagement and everyday usage that you do with all the social media properties. Anyway, so if you're interested in that idea, I'd love some feedback. Gigi is here also with ACTAI, so thank you for your time. I hope you got a little dopamine out of the talk.